Hi, I'm Mark from Valor XL. Thank you so much for joining me today. Are you in the process of starting a new venture, perhaps a small business or a nonprofit? Are you in the throes of trying to figure out everything that you need to do to establish your new enterprise? It can be a really overwhelming experience, but one of the things I really want to encourage you to do is to put careful thought early on to developing something that I think sometimes gets left almost as an afterthought, and that is your brand. It's the outlet and the conduit for translating all of your mission and your vision and the things that you want to pursue into a very fixed and tangible format that will help people to immediately establish that as the identity of everything that you're striving for. But that sounds like a really tall order. How in the world do you go about building a brand? Well, today I'd like to share with you 7 tips for how you can distill what it is that you're all about and put it into a visual representation that will help people to associate what that represents with what you really embody at the organizational level. So I'd like to share these things with you from the perspective of, first of all, looking at what does branding mean? We hear the word brand so much today. We're surrounded by brands. They're everywhere. We see them on social media, in advertising. They're impossible to get away from. Even if you take a walk, you'll see a brand on a billboard or a sign somewhere. To really get an understanding of the significance of branding, you have to look at the origin of the word. The word brand actually comes from the Old Norse word brander, which referred to fire or flame. And originally, the idea of a brand was that a merchant or someone who had created a particular item would use a heated piece of iron to make a mark on a barrel or a crate, indicating that the contents within belonged specifically to them and to their business. Later on, it translated over to the world of livestock and ranching, where cattle owners would put a brand on cattle to identify that particular animal as belonging to their herd. Well, the idea of branding by about 1889 had gone well beyond just heated metal, and by that point it was widely recognized that a brand was simply an identifying mark regardless of how it was applied or what it was applied to. And from there, we launched into the myriad of brands that we have today. But I think it's really important to look at that origin of the word from the perspective that it was referring to fire. Because when you develop a brand, you have to be able to tap into whatever the fire was that inspired you on your business venture. You were obviously passionate about something if you created a small business or a nonprofit. So you need to be able to take that and put it into a tangible form so that someone who sees an emblem of your organization can get a little taste of that fire and passion that inspired you in the first place. It's also important to understand that the idea of a brand was that it left a lasting mark, and so should your brand. Your brand needs to be something that isn't simply identifiable, but memorable. You want it to be something that enables the person who is benefiting from your services to remember, oh yes, this is why I went there. That's how you go about building brand recognition. And brand recognition is something that takes time. It requires perseverance and hard work, and it's directly tied to approaching everything in your business with a spirit of excellence. If you can do that, then your brand will tell people the story of what you're all about. It will communicate not only the product or the service that you're offering, but the rationale behind it. Why are you doing what you're doing? And what is it about your approach that makes you unique and worth seeking out in the marketplace? So here I'd like to share 7 quick tips to keep in mind as you go about developing your brand. Number 1, define your mission and purpose. Now, if you've started a business or a nonprofit, you may be going great guns, determined to go out there and start reaching business goals. But really, before you do any of that, you need to clearly understand, what is it that you're doing? What does your day-to-day operation look like? What are the nuts and bolts of how you will do business? You have to, first of all, establish that, because anyone you're doing business with will want to understand what it is that you're about. And if you can't clearly articulate that to yourself, you have little chance of doing that for others. Your purpose is also critically important because it goes beyond just whatever it is you're carrying out on a daily basis. It addresses loftier goals. It even ties into a vision for what you'd like to do in the future. Why are you bringing the particular service that you're bringing? Is there some reason why you decided on this versus that? Number 2, define your role in the market. It's not enough to simply come with a product or a service. You have to understand where you fit in your market. And first of all, you have to understand what your market is. Is it a local market, a regional market, maybe even a global market? Whatever it is that you decide to immerse yourself in, understand what is a logical fit for you. You know you'll have competition. You know you may not be the only person bringing whatever it is that you're offering. So you need to understand what you're up against and what kind of presence your competition already has. Do they have a strong brand identity? Is there brand loyalty? People coming back consistently to those competitors because of what they're providing or how they're doing it. If you can get a clear understanding of what you're walking into, it can really help you to develop a sound strategy for your own brand positioning. Number 3, identify your target audience. It's not enough to simply know the market you're stepping into. You need to know specifically who you are going after. It really comes down to identifying what are the needs of the people that you're reaching out to. I've heard it said before that if you're going to open an ice cream shop, you can have exotic flavors like bubble gum and tutti frutti, but you better have vanilla, chocolate, and strawberry, because at the core of whatever you're doing, those are basic needs. Basic consumers of ice cream will look for those 3 flavors. So have that same intentionality as you understand your role in serving the people that you're reaching out to. Who is your target audience? You can't simply have a scattershot approach. You can't shoot all over the place and hope to hit something. Even if you offer a myriad of products or services, pick a few clearly defined ones to start with and let them be the core component of your branding. That will give you a much more refined focus. From there, once you've established your presence and people begin to identify your brand, then you can branch out and show them that you have a lot more to offer. Number 4, develop a logo. And this goes way beyond just graphic arts. It's much more than simply creating something that's eye-catching. You want to develop a logo that will help to clearly identify what you're about. Is your logo thought-provoking? Does it stimulate an emotional response in the person looking at it? Ask these questions, and it will really help you to define what it is that you want to embody your entire organizational identity behind. Number 5, introduce yourself. Now, at its most basic level, this involves taking your mission statement and translating it into something concise that's also memorable. Now, coming up with something cleverly worded that also has enough of a serious aspect to it to really relay your message is easier said than done. Don't get discouraged. You probably won't hit it right on the first, second, or maybe even third attempt. But be diligent. Keep looking for ways to get your message out there, and you'll eventually find something that really resonates with your target audience. Number 6, cross-pollinate. Once you've developed your branding, get it everywhere. Not only on your website and your social media, but also in advertising and marketing. And in your social media, make sure that each aspect is enhancing and speaking to every other one. If you have a presence on Facebook, direct people to Instagram. From Instagram, direct people to YouTube. It's a never-ending cycle. But what's good there is that you can get an overlap so that people are used to seeing the presence of your brand, not in one specific location, but in many different ones. It's also important to not overlook the incredible power of putting your branding on physical items. And whether or not these are something that you offer as retail products or as giveaways to your clients or customers, what an incredible marketing tool to have your brand on a tangible physical object in the hands of your clients or customers. And number 7, offer value to build brand loyalty. No matter what you decide to do, it'll be a competitive market. That's just the nature of business. So differentiate yourself with operational excellence. Do things in a way that no one else is doing. Even if you're offering products or services that are very similar to what 10 other entities are in your city, do it with a unique approach, and make sure that customer service isn't simply an afterthought, but something that you devote yourself to. If you have that kind of commitment, then your brand will mean something, and you'll be able to move beyond simply having brand identity, but having brand loyalty. People will see whatever it is that symbolizes your company, and they'll flock to it because they'll know the reputation has already been secured. I hope these tips were beneficial for you, or at least food for thought. Branding, like I said at the very outset, is something that you need to think about right from the beginning of your ventures. Trying to just tack it on at the tail end might be artificial. Let it develop organically as you develop your own organization. Is your organization on a healthy trajectory to develop and grow? How can you even tell? Well, if you click on the link in the description below this video, you can download a free PDF called Taking Your Organization's Temperature. It's 30 simple statements about your organization that can really give you a clear perspective. Is your approach inactive? Are you really not doing much of anything? Is it reactive? Do you do things only when something happens to you? Or are you being proactive? Are you thinking ahead, strategizing, and planning? It'll only take a few minutes to complete, and it can give you an entirely new perspective on the direction you're heading. If this was beneficial to you, please give this video a like, and I'd like to invite you to subscribe to this channel. We have new content every week, specifically tailored for small businesses and nonprofits. Well, thanks again for joining me today. Please come back for our next installment. Remember, at Valor Excel, we're committed to helping you do smart work. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.